Alright, well today what we're going to do is we're going to do Pythagorean theorem word problems. Okay, so instead of us just give, the triangle already being given, we're just trying to find the missing side length. Today they're going to be situational problems, and you're going to have to determine what needs to be solved for and how to then solve it. So we'll have to make pictures with this as well today. So looking at the first one here, we have Jenny hikes 7 miles due east and then 3 miles due north. How far is she from her starting point? So that you can kind of think of as like how the crow flies, okay? If you could walk there in a direct distance, what would it be? So I'm going to go ahead and as I draw this, I'm going to model this one here, and then I'm going to have it try some out. They're not always going to be these exact ones, but these are some of the similar ones. So we always want to make our picture. So I'm going to this one we know Jenny. So I'm going to just start a point. This point that I made is Jenny right now. That's her starting point. We know that she hikes 7 miles due east. So due east is to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and go east to the left. And I'm going to say that is 7 miles. So I go ahead and I label this as I do this. And then it says she then goes 3 miles to the north. So I'm going to go from that point, and I'm going to go 3 miles to the north. Then I draw another line, and I'm going to go ahead and label that as 3 miles. The question asks, how far is she from her starting point? So this is where she's at now, this point right there. Okay, we want to know how far is she from that starting point. So how far between those 2 points? Okay, that is our question mark. So now once you have your triangle drawn, you can then use your Pythagorean theorem, because we know when she turned, she made a 90-degree turn. And we know this is a right triangle, so we know we can then therefore use our Pythagorean theorem, which is leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Remember, the hypotenuse is always the longest side, and the hypotenuse is the side opposite of the 90-degree angle. So the side that we're missing, that question mark here, if I draw my arrow leads to that hypotenuse again. So some of us like to remember it as C. That C value is given. Or it's not given, that's the one we need to find. So we need to do leg squared plus leg squared equals C squared, or the hypotenuse squared. So 3 squared is a leg, plus 7 squared is a leg of our right triangle. And that equals our hypotenuse squared, which is our unknown, so I'm going to mark that with C squared. Okay? Remember, you have to show me this work. The one new step in this now is you're going to have to give me the picture as well. You got to draw a picture. And then once you set it up with your picture, and then you go ahead and write in your the Pythagorean theorem, you can then solve. So 3 squared is 9, plus 7 squared is 49, and that equals C squared. And then combining these together like we've been doing in the past, 49 plus 9 is 58, and that equals C squared. So then we've got to get rid of the squared, so we're going to take the square root of both sides, so we get C equals the square root of 58. This is where your calculator is going to come in, and we're going to round to the nearest hundredth. So this is 7.615, so we're going to make this one 7.62. Now we got to make sure we label. Our label in this one is miles. So we're going to label this one as miles. Yep. All right. So the new thing is, not only are you using Pythagorean theorem, but you have to draw your right triangle, and we're not always going to be finding the hypotenuse. That's going to be the thing here. With this one we found the hypotenuse, but it's not always going to be that way. So let's look at another one here. So in this case, we have the foot of a ladder is placed 5 feet from a building. The top of the ladder rests 12 feet up. So the top of the ladder is 12 feet up the building. Okay, how long is the ladder? So what I want you to do right now is I want you to pause the video and try and draw this picture. Okay, so now that you resume the video, I'm going to go ahead and draw this picture. So I draw my building here. Okay, you can put a little door, maybe a little window, make this look a little more pretty. Okay, but you don't need that stuff, but I have my building there. And I'm going to draw my ladder. It's leaning up against that building. Okay, here's my ladder. All right, you can put little steps on there, so that's the ladder. We know that the ladder, it says, is 5 feet from a building. Okay, the base of the ladder. So the base of the ladder, that's this distance right here. That's that squiggly line. Okay, that's 5 feet. Okay, and then we know straight up and down it is 12 feet. So it's 12 feet tall. It's 12 feet up on there. So I'm going to go ahead and label this as, oops, my building disappeared. I'm going to label that as 12 feet. Okay. Now we know the ground and the building make a 90-degree angle, so that's a right triangle. And it asks how long is the ladder? That ladder is our question mark right there, which is our hypotenuse. Okay, which is our hypotenuse. So now that we have the triangle drawn, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and try and solve this one. Okay, so now resuming the video after you've watched that one. we don't know the hypotenuse, that's its side opposite. The ladder is the hypotenuse, so we're going to have leg squared, so 5 squared, plus the other leg squared, which is 12 squared, equals c squared. Okay, so 5 squared is 25, plus 12 squared is 144, and that equals c squared. Add those together, we get 169 equals c squared. Then you can take the square root of 169, we don't have to worry about the negative here, so c equals 13. If I remember correctly off the top of my head, I'll double check my calculator, square root of 169, yep, 13. Now you can't forget to label, if you don't label you're going to miss out on points as well. This is feet, so make sure you label that as feet. So the ladder is 13 feet long for that problem. Alright, so this is the expected work I want to see. I can tell you by looking at previous practice works, I'm not seeing work on anybody's paper, on some papers. I'm not going to be counting them if there's no work shown. Okay? And if you're not doing it on the assessment, you're not going to get credit either. You need to have your drawing. You need to at least have it set up right there. At least these 4 steps. Those are the steps I need to see. I could see us maybe not doing one of them, but I need to see some of this work. Okay? I need to be seeing that work. Okay? If you don't have the work, it's not going to be counted correct because I'm assuming you're just copying my answer key. Alright, so here we go. Let's do another one here. Number 3 here. Okay, a baseball player is standing at second base and throws the ball to home plate. How far does the ball travel? Remember, it's 90 feet between bases. For some of you guys that don't know baseball, baseball, where the bases are, is a diamond. Alright? Okay, it's a diamond, so you have home plate is right here. Okay, then you have first, then you have second, and then you have third. Okay? So all I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try and work out the whole problem all by yourself now. So work out the whole problem. Alright, so here we go. So solving this problem here, I'm going to make this diagonal. Okay, we're trying to figure out from home to second, so that's this diagonal line here. Okay, that's the unknown. Okay, and a diamond makes a 90-degree angle, so I have my 90-degree angle right there. I'm going to put it in red this time. This is my 90-degree angle. So I can now, therefore, solve it. Okay, and like it says, 90 feet between bases. These are all 90 feet. 90 feet. 90 feet all the way around. Okay, so the side that we're trying to find here, this unknown, that is our hypotenuse again. Wow. A lot of times it's going to be our hypotenuse, okay? But not all the time, so just keep that in mind. So we got to do the same thing here. We got to do leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. So we got to do 90 squared plus 90 squared equals the hypotenuse, which I'm going to mark as c. Okay, so c squared. Now when solving this, 90 squared is 8100. So we have 8100 plus 8100 equals c squared. Adding those together, we get 16,200 equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of both sides is, c squared is 16,200 is 127. So around this nearest hundredth again. So 127.28, and that is our c. That's the hypotenuse, 28 feet. Okay, 127.28 feet. That is how far it should be from home plate to second base. So if they were standing on them, they were throwing the ball. All right. So remember, make sure you have your drawings. Make sure you have all the work shown that you need for all these problems. So let's do one more here on this video. Okay, so it says a rope is stretched from the top of a 7-foot tent pole to the point on the ground that's 12 feet from the base of the pole. How long is the rope? Okay, so I want you to work this one all the way through now, and then once you're completed, go ahead and check it with the video. Alright, so we have a tent. Okay, you can imagine here's my tent. Alright, I got my tent made. Okay, so you got that. Now it says we have a rope. Okay, sorry, is it? Oh, it's a tent pole. Sorry, so I should make my tent pole. That's gonna be. Let me do this again here. So I got my tent pole. Okay, I got my rope. Here's my rope. I'm gonna just label that as rope. Okay, and then there's the bottom of the tent. There's how far it is out. Okay, it says we are stretched from the top of the tent pole, which is 7 feet. So my pole is 7 foot. We are 12 feet from the base of the pole. Okay, so now we can then solve. We're missing that last side. So the pole and the ground make a 90-degree angle. Wow, we're happy to be finding that hypotenuse again. I will tell you, you're not always going to be finding the hypotenuse, so don't get in the habit of that one, okay? Don't get in the habit of that. So we got to do leg squared, so 7 squared plus the other leg squared, which is 12 squared, equals c squared, because that's going to be my hypotenuse. So we're going to have 49 plus 144 equals c squared. 144 plus 49 is, see, that's 153, 193, and that equals c squared. Take the square root of both sides, so we get c equals, so the rope is the square root of 193, which when we round that is going to be 13.89. 13.89 feet. All right. So there's how long the rope would be. Now, like I said, do not get in the habit of these always just being instinctively the hypotenuse. It's not always going to be that way. Okay? You need to make your picture. You need to be solving for the missing side for whichever one's missing. All right? If you have any questions, please let me know. Please make sure you're doing all the work. You're showing all your work, as I'll be checking these and putting them in Infinite Campus as well. All right. Have a great rest of your day. If you have any questions, please let me know.